finally here, we made it. It's the end of the week. It's that day. What day it is?
Friday, I think.
Oh, and you know it's Friday. That means TLF day. And
tier list Fridays.
If you've seen our last one, you know that this is not analyzing logs and damage and whatnot and whatnot. It's all about fun. Because it's really fun to just look at something pretty on your screen.
Yeah, fuck the meta. And we're looking at melees in Mythic Plus right now. And you know, Mythic Plus is something we do much more than we do raiding, because obviously nobody does raiding anymore unless you want to farm some shit. And you know, you cannot do Mythic Plus without some proper add-ons. And this is all thanks to the sponsor of this video, the CurseForge client. Well, we have been using the CurseForge client for like, I don't know, since November last year. No issues whatsoever. It's a breeze to go through, you know, manage all of your add-ons, look for new ones. One button, update all of them, no problemo. And also, I think one of the most cool things about it is that they are constantly updating the app, like quality of life improvements, new features and stuff, stability issues, you know, bugs being reported, getting super fast fixed. So I know there was a stigma behind CurseForge. I think that's pretty much cleared. So you can go ahead and click the link in the description. You will get to see all of our add-ons and also install CurseForge with it. So basically you can get all of our interface with one click away. That's it, in the description. You want to help us? Click the goddamn link. Thank you. Now, let's see what Arms Warrior is looking.
All right, well, Arms Warrior.
Yes, what's up, Mr. Arms Warrior?
Well, the thing
Should I
is,
get programming here?
Arms Warrior can be really good if it had a little bit more damage, and its damage actually match the type of encounters that you see in Mythic Plus. The main issue with Arms is that outside of Blade Storm, you don't really have AoE burst, and you can say Colossus matches AoE burst, but
Cleave,
Sweeping Strike,
Cleaving is fun.
Cleave, it's not meta, man. It's not meta. It's just the numbers are not there.
Yeah, fuck the meta, man. Is it fun or not? Fuck the meta.
Well, is it fun to hit 2 out of the 10 targets, man? What do you think?
Well, you got Blaze Storm for that.
The Blaze, well, okay, listen. So if you have to fight like a 2-boss encounter, or like the first boss in Theater Pin, you know that there's like 3 and you constantly always hit 2.
Oh yeah, and the first
strike.
boss in the midst of turn aside too. You can cleave
Yeah,
after that.
yep, you can do that. That's actually really good. But outside of that, I think unless they balance that AoE talent for Arms, it's gonna be looking pretty shady. And right now, Arms is just looking like a less fun Fury Warrior.
Is it just because of it feels a bit more clunky, not as smooth?
Personally, that's not for me. I like how it feels. It just doesn't have the tools necessary. I mean, it's really cool to just intercept the tank and die by the sword and not die and save your tank. That's actually something that only Arms can do. Well, Brett probably taunt and bubble, but that's kind of another thing. I mean, Arms would have a lot more potential if they could freaking balance that cleave, so you can actually have the cleave for cleave situations where you want to cleave.
So you're saying you know, you want to have a little bit more damage in AoE cleave just to make it more fun. All right.
To feel like I'm actually doing something, not just hitting 2 targets. Like, okay, guys, you take care of the 8. I got these 2 right here. That doesn't work. And just to clarify, because we did get some comments last time, for us, S tier means it's the tier that we're definitely able to main the spec, and we want to main it because it's just super fun. D tier is the tier that we never want to main because it's just dog shit, which is why last time you probably didn't see anything in D tier, because all of them were pretty fun. So just take that into consideration, because right now for me, Arms is looking like a C tier. Kinda. It's not D, it's still fun, it's still warrior.
Let's put it like this. It's fun for people who are really digging the Arms Warrior fantasy, right? Yeah. As a general melee, in terms of fun for both of us, Arms is not looking that bright. I mean, there's definitely hard competition for it. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, it's mainly that, because if the Fury wasn't in the game, Arms would probably be B. It still doesn't have a lot of tools that make a lot of melees fun in M+, unfortunately.
All right. Now, let's go to Assassination Rogue, one of my favorites, my favorite melees of Shadowlands, which was a surprise, and also it was pretty good in Mythic Plus too, although not everybody will find it as fun when compared to Outlaw or Subtlety. But that being said, I think one of the cool parts of Assassination for me, because this is really biased on what we consider fun here.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's basically maintaining and tracking a lot of bleeds and poisons on targets, while also being able to pump out envenoms and vendettas and whatnot on a priority target. That's something a lot of melees are not really interested in. Take, for example, a red paladin, sure, he can pop his wings into a mediocre pack, but that's not really ideal. You want to pop your wings in a big pack. And with Assassination, it really doesn't matter, right? If you have like a 4-mob pack and one is really high priority, that's the complexity with it. And I really love that about it. Plus, you know, the fantasy of being a rogue, only this time around being based on bleeds and, you know, managing everything, energy pooling, you know, making sure you may have proper usage of combo points and stuff. Really easy in single targets on boss fights, but much more complex on AoE. So for me, I would put it an A tier because it has a strong contender. It could have been S tier, but it's A tier for sure.
Actually, just hearing you talk about it kind of makes me agree with a lot, because this is why I've chosen my main the way I've chosen my main, because I like a lot of stuff to manage. I like to feel busy, and that there's like, oh, if I do I have to do this now, it's important. And if I don't do that, it kind of loses out. And that's basically what we consider fun, because we don't really agree on a lot of things, like the color of our shirts clearly, but I do agree with Marcelian when it comes to what's interesting and fun in a spec, and that's, you know, complexity that can be rewarded. And it's like, oh my god, if I do this, if I manage that one extra thing, it's all.
I will also add the class fantasy is really important for me. I'm guessing for you too. Assassination still retains a lot of that class fantasy.
To be honest, whenever I think of Rogue, I always think of Assassination.
It
was always the thing. But moving on to another thing that I have to say. So I don't know how high I've ranked Enhancement in raids, but Enhancement in Mythic Plus is doing a lot better than in raids.
Oh, I've seen you.
Because it's its kit just has a lot of high consistent AoE damage. It can be bursty in Ascendance, but outside of Ascendance you just have Doom Winds and Hellstorm, and it just deals really well in AoE. Obviously when you pop Chain Harvest is also really nice. When you just heal everybody for at least 20% of their HP, that is really nice. The utility kit feels like it's a little bit lacking though. It's fun to be able to, you know, like slow things, and obviously the AoE stun is more or less generic at this point. Pretty much everybody and their mom has some form of stun, and AoE stun is not that uncommon. It's nice to have Bloodlust though, and the Earth Elemental, it can be good. It's not as good as for Eli Shaman, because it's not the empowered Earth Elemental, so it doesn't always pull aggro, and it dies really quick. So the higher the key is, you can probably save your tank a couple of globals before they can get back in. Maybe it can help with kiting. So Enhancement has that a lot to manage stuff. It's less busy than it is in single target, because the priority changes a little bit in AoE, but it is still fun.
For me, let's put it like this. From an outsider looking at you playing it, I would put it into S tier in terms of fun. Take that and make your decision.
That's the thing, because by sound and effects alone, it's amazing.
And the looks, man. I'm looking at it, it's like, everything is fun.
It looks really well. It feels fun. It feels like it could need a little bit of what Assassination has. It doesn't have a lot going on in AoE, because I mean, it is fun to manage the Maelstrom weapon charges into the Hellstorm charges, but it does feel like sometimes you kind of have to forcibly cap resources, which is not a particularly fun feeling. It could easily be an S tier spec, but I have to put it very generously in the A tier, just because it's not a simple spec to play. It is rewarding, but I feel like it requires one more level of depth to be extra fun, to feel like, oh my god, I have this. Because it has a cookie cutter build, and unfortunately it's not much option.
Fair enough. But A tier, I mean, it's still super fun.
A tier is still really fun. It's fun to hop into an enhancement, do a key every now and again as a null. It takes you out of the loop, and it's pretty good.
Oh, for sure. Now let's go check out the Feral Druid, which has been my main up until I started looking at other mains, because, you know, this first batch of Shadowlands is quite long. I don't know if you noticed, but this shit is pretty long. I kind of switched a bit from it. I ranked Feral as S tier last time in raids, and obviously this is biased and super subjective. I still find Feral super fun. I'm not gonna rate it S tier this time around, because in dungeons I always felt I was a bit gimped, although, you know, the Primal Rat build with Circle Legendary can really do wonders, and, you know, there's people like 4 who like pull out 7k per, you know, plus 20 keys and stuff. That's the damage is there, the utility is there. We're just talking about fun. I just didn't feel it as fun as, for example, Assassination, which is another bleed spec, right? And that being said, I mean, sure, you have Convoke. It's good. It's awesome to press. You're seeing things popping out everywhere. Convoke is really good in AoE too. If you want to pop it as Feral, it can do pretty good. But overall, I didn't have as much fun as some of the other melees I played in Keys, especially when compared to Assassination. So for me, I would rank Feral in a B tier.
That's actually interesting because I did consider Feral in 9.1 as one of the specs to look at, and I did try it in AoE. It's definitely an improvement from BFA, but the playstyle is like you said, just lacks a little bit.
Yeah,
it's
not there. And something's missing. I don't know exactly what. I mean,
it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't feel too amazing to press Primal Wrath. Like it's more satisfying to press Bite. But Primal Wrath seems like okay, it's a rip. But I think like if we have another different interaction with Primal Wrath where you can do some snappy moments while everything is bleeded up, that would be really cool. Even if you do it like once per pack, I feel like Feral might require that to be in to have like that little spike in the momentum in a rotation. It's like, oh, I did it. That mattered. Look at my meters, right? I feel like maybe that's kind of what Feral I feel needs from me, and I consider it a B tier. It's a little bit more fun for me than Arms, but not on the same row as the other two.
Cool. Now let's check out Frost.
Okay, this is also very, very biased for me because when we did our Frost DK research, I played a lot of Frost in dungeons, and thankfully to Stan as well, who helped us with footage. He mostly tested Breath of Sindragosa, which I played for a long time in BFA, and I don't think, it doesn't feel like it changed. I played it in Shadowlands as well. It didn't really change too much. Breath of Sindragosa is a very restrictive playstyle. It does do the most amount of damage. It does stupid amounts of damage in Mythic Plus. For me, I like Breath. It's fun. It's not as fun as what other specs can do in dungeons because it feels very restrictive, and that kind of takes away a little bit of the enjoyment, because if your tank doesn't pull big every 2 minutes, then your Breath is kind of wasted, and that feels kind of shit, especially since there are mechanics that are going to take you out of the pack, out of melee, to just like, you know, drop something or dodge something, and that is really detrimental to Breath. But there is obliteration. And being able to hit big, fat obliterations, that's actually what I found very surprisingly a lot more fun than I expected. I actually ended up playing a lot more than I probably should have. Obliteration was incredible for Frost DK. It's something simple about it, something about just getting big crits, big hits on targets. I mean,
what's not to like about that?
It doesn't translate into a lot of AoE, but overall the damage is really good. And I kind of feel like Frost is maybe a little bit more, has more an impactful immediate feel in terms of damage when compared to Feral, because I think it's kind of around B tier for me as well. It has a lot of impactful moments, more than Feral does, but I feel like Feral is maybe, although people will hate me for this, I think Feral utility is maybe a little bit better. Outside of AMZ, I think Feral brings roots, Feral brings roar, Feral brings
but
heals.
we're not really counting that as much. I mean, in terms of fun, I think we said it last time, you know, utility and DPS like 20%, it has to be 80%.
Yeah, but that's fun for me, being able to help the party, being able to interact with things, I feel useful. So Frost is still a B tier for me. It's close to being an A,
but
it's just
Feral,
missing.
Though?
I found Frost a little bit more fun than Feral, to be honest.
Oh, there you go. Because I looking at you know, again, the playstyle, it seems more fun in Mythic Plus dungeons. Right?
It is, and you know, you're slow, but when you hit something, you know, everybody knows you hit that stuff. Yeah. I mean, you can show that. All
right. So time to go to the Fury Warrior, because this is like the first argument regarding Arms Warrior.
Yeah.
It's like going into the shadow of Fury Warrior in Mythic Plus. I mean, come on.
There's a very big difference, and Fury kinda has a similar weakness as Arms that makes it a little bit awkward when you play in big packs, because you're still capped, but you're not as capped as Arms. You're capped at around 5 targets. Bladestorm, as far as I know, isn't capped, but pretty much every other part of the rotation is aligned on
capped
you.
At 8 targets, if I'm not mistaken.
Possibly,
but
I'm not sure
still
if
good.
It feels good. So the thing is, Fury does a lot of damage. Fury is very fun. Fury is very fluid. It's very high-paced, high-octane. It doesn't have the level of death that, let's say, Enhancement or maybe Assassination has, but it doesn't really need it.
No, because it's a different mindset when you go into it. I mean, if would have had that, then it would be a much more rigid spec. This is what's part of the fun of playing a Fury Warrior in Mythic Plus, is like, you know, you don't need, obviously it's not a brain dead spec, but it doesn't need too much in-depth stuff to make it work as it currently is portrayed. And
I feel that's the thing, and that's actually a really good spec for pugs, because pugs usually don't pull a lot of stuff.
Because they're afraid of some.
So like 2-pack pools are usually working really well for Fury.
Yeah, and plus the fact that you have the Signal Legendary, a lot of Blaze Storms, RNG obviously, but when they go in, it's really fun. It kind of reminds me of the Vision of Perfection for Paladins when your wings would
You
pop
actually
up.
have control of it. The thing is with Signal, when you press Recklessness, you have like a 50% chance of getting a Blade Storm
Right.
or Avatar. And if you don't get Blade Storm, you still have your own Blade Storm afterwards, which you match them together and you
Yes,
get like
good
some
point.
crazy freaking numbers.
And that's fun. I would say
that's
pretty
actually
fun.
that's a good example of fun RNG because it doesn't.
They nailed it. How about that?
It's a little bit controlled and you can actually play around. It's like, okay, I didn't get my Blaze Storm, I can just pop my own Blaze Storm then. So it's actually really cool. And because of that, for me, Fury is a solid A tier.
Really?
It's very close.
I would put it S tier.
For me, it's very close to S tier.
Okay, put it in front. We'll see.
It's better for me than an Enhancement for sure. I don't know how it would stack against Assassination. I haven't played a lot of Assassination this time around.
No, I think it's better than Assassination.
The thing with Fury is it is fun, but you will get bored of it initially. Personally, because you just did the same thing. There's not a lot of depth to the rotation. It is just meaty satisfaction. I want to say that meaty satisfaction.
Yeah, you see meaty a lot. Probably some hunger mode right now. All right, Havoc Demon Hunter, which was a favorite for, I would say, both of us. For me, mostly in Legion and BFA a little bit. And for you, I think you played it much more this time around.
Yes, I did. I was surprised to see what goes into making a spec fun for me is obviously a little bit of depth and some things to manage, and also mobility and being super fun, super fast, super all over the place. Havoc has that with the momentum build and with the standard demonic build, which you can use a total of three. You could use three legendary. Come on, man! Stop it with the buttons, man. It's looking right now. It's looking like momentum could be the better build in 9.1, making Havoc a little bit harder to play, but more satisfying. For me, in terms of fun, Havoc is one of the specs that nails it almost perfectly. In terms of you can have simple, stupid fun by just playing the old demonic build, which is no longer like the BFA where you just spam Blade Dance. It's no longer like that. I had to take out Blade Dance out of my system. Very hard. I guess that's how people do. Okay, no, we're not gonna talk about that. But Havoc, just being able to, we're not gonna beat around the bush. It's fast. It's all over the place.
Yeah, man, it's fun. Nobody can argue that it's not fun.
For me, Havoc is a solid S tier. It's
the first one.
It has the fun of Fury and the depth, almost the depth of something like Enhancement or Assassination. It's not all the way there, but it's a little bit more than Fury. So it kind of bridges that gap.
Very cool. And I take your Havoc S tier and I raise you a Outlaw S tier. But I'm gonna state my reasons.
I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna argue.
Listen, I've been playing Outlaw quite a lot in the last couple of, I would say, weeks, because I was mainly dishing Assassination. But here's the deal. If you look at Outlaw, I'm gonna go a little bit geeky on it. So if you look at Outlaw players that do really high keys, you're never gonna see the Mark of the Assassin Legendary and Killing Spree. But if you look at 15s, which is what we do basically, that range of keys, you will see that. And for me, that is the most fun thing you can have as an Outlaw. Yeah, dude, because you get, so here's for people who don't know, right? So obviously Outlaw is a powerhouse in Mythic Plus, there's no secret about it, right? But you do have the Mark of the Assassin Legendary paired up with Killing Spree, and of course Blade Fury. So what it is, right? You pop on Blade Fury, that enables your melee attack to hit everybody around. That's one thing, right? Killing Spree is a big cooldown that basically teleports you to all the targets and you hit everybody around. Yeah. And the Mark of the Assassin Legendary will give you 4 seconds of 100% crit, right? Or for, that duration. So pair that with Killing Spree and Blade Fury, it's basically like if the pack is decently pulled in, you just instantly get from
that sounds so fun.
10-13k DPS, no problem, and it's fun as well, right? And on top of that, I always said it, Outlaw, as opposed to Assassination, it isn't as complex in AoE. You still have a lot of tracking to do, and if you play with Mark for Death, you need to have a tank that, you know, knows you're a rogue and gives you a couple of seconds, you know, to stealth and pop your mark of death.
You can tell he's been suffering about this subject, and I know I've been to blame for that.
Yeah, but that being said, it's a playstyle you have to do, because you can snipe mark for deaths. It's really powerful. And I think the most fun thing about Outlaw is, and I said this in the raid too, but I have to underline it here. The most fun thing is you have access to all of your cooldown so fast. Basically, you can pop your cooldowns as soon as they're ready. Doesn't matter if it's a big pack, a small pack, a boss, you just pop them. And that makes it a much more relaxed spec. The only stressful quote-unquote thing would be just to make sure you track everything and refresh in your pandemic windows. So
it's
S-tier.
S-tier. Okay, I agree. So from what you're telling me, I get a lot of Fury and Havoc vibes. So the killing spree thing that you're mentioning sounds like the fun aspect of Fury and Havoc condensed into like a very short window of explosive goodness.
So good.
And trying to
but
track
it is
all of
risky. It is very risky, because I died a couple of times.
I saw that. I was there.
Like, because it teleports you cannot
but
control
that's the fun
it.
part, right? That's the fun part. And
risk reward.
being able to manage all that stuff, and obviously if sniping stuff with Mark of Death, right?
Mark of Death.
That's very close to how Affliction plays in AoE, and the reason I bring that up is because that actually keeps you engaged in the pack that you're on. You're actually paying attention to what's going on. Okay, that's low HP. Because with specs like Fury and Havoc, you just blast. You just don't care. You just hit whatever's closest to you, and you just blast. But that actually keeps you engaged. It's like, oh, that one.
Yeah, that
sounds pretty cool.
A really skilled Outlaw player will have a lot of Marfadets. And imagine if you use a dispatch with a full Marfadet combo point window, you just get your cooldowns way faster. That's the cool thing about Outlaw.
That's also like what Fury kind of feels, because you're playing anger management, but Outlaw has it like across the board.
Yeah,
that's the
thing. That's the thing. Okay, now let's go to Red Paladin.
Okay,
you want to talk about it?
Yeah, let me actually touch on it, because I know you play Red slightly different than what I played in Mythic Plus. So for me, the major selling point of Red is obviously Execute Sentence and Final Reckoning. Final Reckoning is crazy. Execute Sentence and Final Reckoning kind of plays into the 1 minute Red Paladin build, which is personally what I find the most fun aspect of it, because it has a couple of layers of depth to it. The rotation kind of becomes mechanical, as in your combo is the same almost all the time. You almost never change it, but it is very specific. If you fuck up one cooldown, you lose a lot of damage, and it is super fun to go into a pack and burst all of that AoE. The way I kind of sometimes play it is once I pop Executions, I don't just sink Templar's Verdict into it, but I do Divine Storms. And although that single target doesn't take as much single target damage as it could be, but I do all of that AoE holy damage on targets that were debuffed by Final Reckoning, and that's incredibly good. And the best part of it is you will actually have really good boss damage, because you are running the 1 minute build, which is incredibly good at single target damage. That makes Paladin fun. On top of all of that, what I find really fun about Paladin is the utility kit, the way that you can actually help your party. I cannot tell you how many awesome 30k Words of Glory I have done or had on me from Marcelian when he's playing his Red. It is amazing. Like every time I think, oh my god, we're gonna die this pack, boop, we're not gonna die this pack. That's not very many specs can actually do that. There are a lot of hybrids that heal for a lot. I think Paladin is probably the best hybrid healer in the game right now.
Yeah, that's a thing that was always fun to me as a Red Paladin main for so many years. It's like the tools you will have to not only DPS but also help out your party. It's one of the concepts that made me fall in love with the spec, and it is no different in Mythic Plus. As Flame mentioned it, you can help out a lot with your Words of Glories. Obviously, you're gonna sacrifice damage, but sometimes you have to do that because what was the saying, like a DPS does more DPS alive than dead, right?
Being dead does 0 DPS.
Exactly. So you can help out that, plus sacrifice and lay on hands, and freedoms and dispels on poisons. I see a lot of paladins not dispelling.
Good in Plaguefall, man. Jesus.
Yeah, why don't you paladins dispel?
Paladin was made to counter Plaguefall, man, and so many reds.
You have to do it.
You don't see a lot of reds to begin with, but
yeah, but that's the thing. The ones you do see, you should help out your healer with the spells. Getting into like the fun aspect when it comes to the mechanics and rotation. I usually go with 2 builds. If it's not tyrannical, so if we don't have a lot of like boss extra HP or stuff like that, I really don't go with Execution Sentence, because I find it much more fun in Mythic Plus to just pop out those you know, procs from Divine Purpose and from Empyrean Power, like the Divine Storms, you know, paired up obviously with the Final Reckoning, and you know, everything is just beautiful when you have all of them up. And trust me, it happens a lot, and it's super fun to do so, because that's the thing. Like, if you really want to play the more hybridy part of Red Paladin, you can get much more value out of playing Divine Purpose and an Empyrean Power with maybe Zeal or something like that, you know, outside of it. That's just the thing. That's how I like to play it, because I get a lot of procs that I don't have to spend my holy powers to kill my damage, right? I use my procs to heal, or use my procs to do Empyrean Power, Divine Storms, and then I have other resources to heal. But that's something, you know, I find fun. For me, S tier. I'm sorry, that's it. It's S tier.
It's not. If it would have been A tier for me, it would have been way at the front of A tier. But
fun,
S tier is a fun.
Can you believe it? Red Paladin is S tier.
Nah, it's I know, man. Like I've played. I thought I was gonna main Red Paladin for the better part after we finished raiding, because I did
all
play
of your life, Flame.
Paladin for like 2 months straight, and it was very, very, very fun.
All right, what's
Moving
next?
on to something that I don't know much about.
I can talk about Subtlety because it's still one of my favorite specs.
All right.
When I pug, I sometimes go into a game to Subtlety, and it still does good. It's still fun. If you want, so now we have both of the rogue specs, first rogue specs, you know, put up on the tier list. So if you're like really digging a rogue, and I dig a rogue, and you want the simple version in AoE, right? Out of all of these specs, Subtlety is the way to go. And I had a chat about this with Mistler from the Ravenhole Discord, and he's basically like really into the Subtlety AoE part of it, just because it's that simple. It really is super simple. Obviously you have to play with the Mark of the Master Assassin Legendary, and that will get you the benefits of the crit chance, and you basically just Shuriken Storm, Black Powder, Shuriken Storm, Black Powder, Secret Technique, Shuriken Storm, Black Powder. You know, it's not that complicated in AoE. When it comes to a boss fight, obviously there's things you have to be aware of, but it's not as complex as it was before.
Is it fun?
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends on what you consider fun. For me, I find it more fun to play Outlaw and maybe Assassination than Sub this time around. But if you're like more into the more simplified version of things and want to have access, because Subtlety has access to its burst really fast too, with your, you know, shadow techniques and stuff. You have your shadowlands really fast. It's super fun because it still retains that flavor of the Subtlety Rogue, you know, being like fast bursty, you know, moving around from the stealth shadows, class fantasy, all of that. So it's still an A tier for me. If it was for me to choose, I'll put it in A tier.
Above or behind?
After Assassination. No, after Assassination. Assassination takes the cake because, you know, I find it a bit more in depth in AoE just because of the track and stuff.
In terms of raw concept, I always liked a sub that and it's so weird for you to call it like it's a simple in AoE, and that
it's really simple, man.
That's a little bit of a bummer to me, because I feel like the Shadow Dance is maybe the coolest thing that Rogue has, because you have access to all of the stealth abilities that make Rogue what it is.
It's good. It's
so
different
often,
single target, yeah.
And it's even if it's simple in AoE, that's not an issue. I think like if it had a little bit more competitive damage where it would even matter, maybe I could see myself considering it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's good damage, but it's nowhere near an Outlaw, unfortunately. But you know, in terms of fun, hey,
yeah, it's all about fun, because damage notwithstanding, we're moving on.
Survival Hunter, which is what is it?
It's currently my main for 9.1, and most of the reason for that is because of the Mythic Plus build. Now, Survival Hunter, I feel I've played except Rogue. I think I've played all of the melees so far in Shadowlands, and I feel like Survival Hunter nails the death argument as much, and that's actually what I find the most fun.
There you go.
The variety in your playstyle is important to keep you engaged into the fight, and obviously numbers actually matter in M+, if you're gonna be competitive in any way. And obviously just doing tank level damage is not fun. I don't know who finds doing tank level damage fun, but in terms of AoE, Survival brings it, man. Survival brings it. Survival can give fire mages a run for their money if you don't pull all the dungeon. Because Survival AoE is also not target capped. The one probably its biggest weakness is that it is melee, although if you really think about it, you only have Raptor Strike and Carve, which are melee, which you kind of need Carve in AoE to keep the bomb cooldown to the minimum. But Survival is, for me, the it would be the best melee spec in the game if it had a little bit more single target damage, which is going to be buffed in 9.1. We'll have to see how that number stack up, because on bosses it's a little bit tricky. Without Pride and without Wild Spirits, you're gonna feel incredibly average on bosses, but on packs, man, you're gonna melt packs. And the Wildfire Infusion, I feel it's one of the best talents that they have, because it just makes bombs so interesting, because you have 3 different types of bombs, and every bomb means that you're going to be playing your rotation a little bit differently, and that keeps it fresh. The fact that they rotate randomly between all of them, it keeps it engaging, and you're not that predictable. So it's kind of like how Fury Warrior is. When you pop one cooldown, you're not sure what you're going to get, but whatever you're going to get, it's fun. And because it's always kind of different, you're not always mechanically just AFK playing this spec. For me, Survival is probably the most fun spec right now. I think it's the most fun spec in the game right now.
Put it in there, man. Put it in there.
For me, it's the solid S tier. It's the most fun I've had in Shadowlands by a large margin.
Yeah, and it's sometimes considered the underdog, but really does super well. And we always advocated for Survival, like since when we started talking about it. It's one of the most fun, if not the most fun, to play right now. So definitely a well-deserved front of the line S tier. All right, what about Unholy Death Knight?
There we go, Unholy Death Knight. Unholy Death Knight is also a love child of mine that I've discovered how fun it is at the end of Legion and in BFA. Unholy Death Knight is another huge powerhouse of damage in Mythic Plus. And why does damage matter when it's fun? Well, when you're melting shit,
that gets to be fun.
It's fun as hell. The fact that you had a couple of talent changes now in Shadowlands where you get a lot of cooldown reduction, which makes Outlaw fun, which makes Fury fun, just reducing the cooldown of one of your big abilities. And I think Unholy kind of reduces the cooldown of all of their main shit, except Unholy Blight is really fun. Unholy also has 2 playstyles that you can play in Mythic Plus, where you can go the old style Bursting Source, where you just pull like 20 mobs and just melt everything, or you can play the more up-to-date Shadowlands build of just constantly rotating through cooldowns, just melting everything in your path. Obviously, it has the DK benefits of, when your party's almost dying, you pop AMZ and you feel like you're contributing. It's like, oh my god, you would have died without me. That's actually fun for me. I like to feel like I can bring something to help the party out.
You're useful.
I need validation, man. What I didn't get it from my dad. I'm gonna get it from Unholy.
But no, I always found it super interesting, and I always found it super complex. But once the things really line up, it's so nice to see like everything just melting away. That core fantasy of spreading diseases and having all of your pets and your ghouls, doing all of the work and stuff. Not all the work, but part of the work. It's 100% always fascinating to see from an outsider, right? Yeah. So what do you want to put it on?
I see it in 8 tier solidly. I think I had more fun on my Fury than I had on my Unholy, but I don't know how it stacks against Assassination.
I think you can put it in the middle. Put it in the middle.
I think it's a fair place. It's hard because Marcelian played Assassination, but he didn't play Unholy, so it's kind of hard to judge exactly how they rank against each other.
Just equal over there.
Spread out, just keep the rogues a little bit like touching everything.
Far from each other.
But again, something that we're moving towards that we more often than not agree on is Windwalker.
Windwalker Monk, man. It's it's a hard time for me just leveling this bad boy, because I'm still undecided if I should go for it in 9.1 or keep my Red Paladin or my rogues. But Windwalker Monk, as in the raid tier list, a well-deserved time for them, because once again I have to state this, it never was an easy spec to pull off. Once you did pull it off, in some moments you would get the reward for it, in some you didn't. Mostly, I would say in some parts in Legion, mostly in BFA, but this time around in Shadowlands, if you pull correctly a Windwalker Monk, it's 100% satisfaction guaranteed. Yes. Big damage, high mobility, class fantasy, utility, you name it. And it has that in-depth thing that we always talk about in other melee classes. I mean, you can play it easy mode, no problem, and you'll still be decent enough. But if you really want to get, the biggest potential out of a Windwalker Monk, you have to play it right, and you're gonna dominate everybody.
That's actually the thing, because correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you guys will correct me, but I think Windwalker is a little bit harder to play now than it was in BFA.
It's a couple of more buttons,
There's 1 or 2 conduits that will alter your rotation a little bit if you want to min-max the conduits. I forget their name, goddammit. It's the spinning crane kick conduit that makes spinning crane kick a lot better if you maintain the multiple buffs to spinning crane kick. You know, if you hit different targets, you get more damage on it. The fact that Dance of Chi-Ji is now a talent, it's actually also really fun. It can be tricky to put that whirling dragon punch and just get hit by AoE.
Yeah, it happens.
The animation is so goddamn long, man.
It's slow, like
Windwalker was also on the list for me to rank, to consider maining as well. It's one of the most fun melee specs in the game. For me, it's not as fun as Havoc and Survival, but it's a very solid S tier for me.
Yeah,
I don't know where it ranks with
we can
Rogue.
put it in the middle too, just like Unholy, because you know it has that you know, some people really love it, some people really hate it, but it has everything for everybody. That's so numbers aside, in a you know meta aside, and I know it's a lot of meta. You know, Windwalker is a meta spec, no doubt, but it's not a meta spec that was not deserved, or it wasn't like it's time to shine. You can have it like basically a useless spec if you don't play it right. That's the thing about it. So here is an example of play it right, you know, and get the
getting what's up. I mean, Monk is hardly not ever a meta spec just because of the toolkit, so it's always gonna have a place, because Ring of Peace is just way too good, because Incap is
Dungeons
really good,
for sure,
AoE stun, and it's just
off heals, Incap, yeah, for sure. But hey guys, this is the final picture for melees in Mythic Plus. Once again, huge disclaimer, this is what we consider fun, and we look a lot at, you know, the class fantasy, rotation, mechanics, how it feels, and also in a lesser, you know, manner, the damage and utility, although in some specs, making that big ass damage is super fun. And, you know,
sometimes the damage is not really what's most important if you're gonna have fun. I mean, you can see Survival and Red, although they both do really good AoE damage, they do have some issues that put them a little bit below the meta, but we still consider them fun because it's just about what we enjoy. And on the topic of Shadowlands as well, because we've been getting comments, we don't consider anything D tier. So for all its fault, Shadowlands has done a decent job at making specs fun and engaging to play. Obviously not all at the same rate, but clearly we don't really think there's any spec that you shouldn't play.
No, even arms, as we said in the beginning, it's some people really don't like it because it's, you know, it feels a bit more clunky, or as you said, it doesn't feel fun, you know, to just be able to hit like two targets. I feel very limited
when I play arms, and that's not really fun.
Yeah, there you go. But some others don't, like, well, our boy Thorgrim, you know, he's playing like super good, and like he always joins the group and just dominates the meters and stuff. So yeah, that's it. And with that being said, we like to
throw our love to the patrons for supporting our content and everything that we do. Thank you very much, guys. It means a lot to us, everything that you do, and you make a lot of things possible. As you might have recently noticed, we've started to do a couple of different videos here and there that you can definitely check if you look in our channel. And if you viewers think that this is all really cool and you want to support us a little bit more, the link is down below to everything that we have in our Patreon. You might have a couple of goodies in store for you there if you enjoy that kind of stuff, and you would be supporting our stream as well, because the stream as well, twitch.tv/MarcelianOnline. You can go ahead and check them out with the streams like 3 days per week, but longer this time. So once again, thank you everybody for supporting. Thank you for watching up until this point, and have a great weekend. As always, we wish you that, because we're nice people. Yeah. Really?
Yeah, I guess so.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.